people run into financial distress, is what I'll call it, right? For a couple of reasons. One could be, which is stereotypical, they have bad money habits. But frankly, there are lots of people who run into financial trouble not because they've got bad money habits, but
Mhm.
other things happen. So, for example, you lose your job. This happens, and it's
Right.
something completely out of your control.
Mhm.
Generally, most of the time, it's out of your control. Or you've got some large medical expenditure, like we do now, all of a sudden you're in trouble.
Mhm.
So to me, it's getting people's mindsets towards, hey, look, the way you create financial peace for yourself is becoming financially independent. You do
Mhm.
not want to leave your financial life in the hands of some person or some institution where
Right.
it's completely out of your control. It's not wisdom.
Everyday people working 9 to 5, saving up that money, trying to survive, investing in the future, trying to be wise. We're gonna be money heroes. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Nick Johnson, host of Everyday Money Heroes, and I've reached early retirement. I'm here to provide information on how to obtain financial independence and inspire you through sharing stories of everyday people who are turning knowledge into freedom.
That hustle, always reaching for the sky. We're gonna be money heroes, never gonna shy.
Hello and welcome to Everyday Money Heroes. We provide information and inspiration to people of all ages to take control of their financial journey. I'm your host, Nick Johnson, and today we have Wanji Williams. Before we get into our conversation with Wanji, I'll ask that if you're watching us here on YouTube, that you would be so kind to subscribe. If you're listening to this by way of podcast, that you would follow us on your podcast player of choice. And with that being said, a little bit about our guest, Wanji. Wanji has spent over a decade on a global mission breaking down barriers and empowering people across multiple continents to build lives of stability and purpose. From leading financial stewardship ministries at his church to shaping the next generation on high school foundation boards, he is the definition of community involvement. He's a newsletter writer, a personal finance consultant, and the host of Your Forever Money podcast, where he teaches you how to build sustainable income streams to live the life of your dreams. Please welcome to the show the passionate, the purposeful, a true money hero, Wanji Williams. How are you doing, Wanji?
Thank you very much, and thanks a lot for having me on the show.
Yeah, no, it's no problem. I'm happy to have you here. We have a mutual friend, by the way of Dwayne. So shouts out to Dwayne for connecting us.
Yes.
He's a good guy, and I'm happy that he was able to kind of bring us together. So with that being said, we want to just learn more about you, Wanji, and kind of your passion around personal finance. So first of all, one thing I want to ask you is, where are you on your journey as far as where are you? Are you at the beginning, the middle, the end? Where exactly are you?
So I'll say I'm in the middle. I'm
Okay.
well on my way. So my wife, Maya, and I, what we've done is we've set up a couple passive streams of income.
Okay.
I have a portfolio of dividend growth stocks that actually caused me to create a newsletter doing that.
Okay.
And then we're in the process of selling down our rental properties and converting that into assets that just give us steady cash month in, month out.
Oh, okay. So
Yes.
you are a dividend investor. You enjoy the dividends.
It's one of the things I invest in. I like it. There's nothing such as a perfect investment, but in my
Right.
mind, dividend growth stocks come close.
Oh, yes, that's true because you can get the growth as well as the dividends. So
There you go.
that
You got it, man.
that is very important. And so with that being said, Wanji, what is your current occupation?
So I work in supply chain in the electrical infrastructure industry.
Hmm.
And now I'm dedicated to AI data centers. So when AI data centers come up, they consume a ton of electricity.
Yes.
I work in supply chain providing the electrical infrastructure they need to power up those data centers.
Okay. And so most people are not necessarily born being interested in personal finance. Some people, they're exposed to something or they experience something in their life, or maybe
Yes.
one teacher, they sit in the class and learn something. How exactly did you gain an interest Wanji, in personal finance and investing?
I think there are a couple of things that caused me to develop this interest. So, number one was my dad. So, my
Okay.
dad taught math, but he had a huge interest in finance, and this is something he talked about. So, as a kid, I just kind of learned from him. That
Mhm.
was, path number one. Then, path number two, I grew up in a country called Sierra Leone, which, if you
Oh,
research,
okay.
is a very poor country. And there you very quickly get to understand you need to figure out this money thing, otherwise it's poverty. So it becomes very clear to you at a
Mhm.
very, very young age. And then number three, even though I live in the US today, and supposedly, there's a lot of money in the US, supposedly, it's
Mhm.
become clear to me the ticket to freedom, one of the tickets to freedom is making sure you can generate your own income from a passive perspective.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you'll never be free. You're always going to be beholden to someone or some institution or something. So, those three triggers put me on this journey.
Okay, I got you. So you grew up as a child in Sierra Leone,
Yes.
okay? And when did you come over to the US?
So, I came in halfway through my undergrad. So, I came in and basically started as a junior year student
Okay.
at Temple University in Philadelphia. So, halfway through undergrad.
Okay, great. All right. So is there a concept to Sierra Leone and here, well, let me ask a question. Here in the US, we have, the stock market, we have NASDAQ and Dow and all those stuff.
Yes.
Is there such a thing like that in Sierra Leone? And when you came here, you just kind of had to figure it out, or was there some comparisons that you could make in between what you had saw there versus here?
This is a very interesting question.
Okay.
So Sierra Leone has a stock market, but it's very, very small and largely private. So you can't just log into your computer, say, oh, I see this stock and I want to buy it. Doesn't exist there,
Mhm.
right? So coming over here, that was all new for me. My father had told me about it. So I just really had to teach myself. Did a lot of reading,
Mhm.
financial magazines like Kiplinger's, Business Week. So I basically was self-taught.
Oh, okay. I got you. Okay. That's great. And so being self-taught, you acquired, certain amount of knowledge around personal finance and things like that. Do you recall once you came here in the US what your first investment was?
Well, what I remember doing is just investing in the company 401k through work.
Okay.
So I did that. And basically, that was what I did for many years until I think it was 2007. I
Mhm.
started a new job. And now I had the opportunity to do a rollover from the 401ks from my prior jobs. And
Mhm.
then I started this self directed IRA. And
Mhm.
then I just started buying stock. I just started buying what I was reading. I started applying.
Mhm.
On hindsight, I probably should have been more cautious, but
Uh-huh.
it paid off. It paid off. It paid off well.
Right. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, right? Yeah, that is true. So it sounds like previously, Wanji, that at those companies, you only had the option to really buy a company stock or just a very small basket of like mutual funds.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, I got you. So
Yes,
you
that
left
is
those
correct.
jobs. It gave you the ability to really branch out and buy anything that was traded.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the thing is that I tell people often, okay, only work with what you have. Sometimes you might be at a company, maybe all they'll do is allow you to buy company stock, or they might have maybe a couple mutual funds. So don't invest in it because you feel as though you don't have good options. Because typically what will happen is even if you don't have good options, you're probably still getting some type of company match. So you
A-
want to make
a-
sure
yes.
to get that company
Yes.
match. But then when you get the opportunity to be able to make better investments, then take that company match money along with what you already put in and then start to, branch out, as you said before.
Yes. And one of the things I think that's so important, Nick, is that people get into the habit. For
Mm,
me, investing is a habit. So this is money you're not used to coming into your hands and it goes towards investment. That's huge
yeah.
because if you don't get into that habit when you're younger, 10, 15 years down the road, it's going to
Mhm,
be very painful and difficult making the lifestyle adjustments you
mhm.
need to start investing.
No, yeah, no, that's true because once you start to do it, when you're younger, you have the ability to leverage compounding.
Yes.
Also, it gets you to a point where like you say, you have that muscle. You have that
Yes.
saving muscle, you build it. And so as you get
Yes.
older, it's just something that you're used to doing.
Yep.
And also, one of the things, it's not such a shock when you start to do it. It's almost like giving. I know
Yes.
it was almost when me and my wife first got married, we're like, you know what, we believed in giving and tithing and things like that.
Yes.
So it's
Yes.
a whole lot
Yes.
easier when you're young and the money isn't very big. And when you get older, all of a sudden you said, okay, I want to start giving. Like, okay, I got to write a check that big. You know, so you really get used to, getting that going. So it's extremely important to be able to do that and to just get into the habit of doing that. And I
Yes.
know even now, Wanji, I have my portfolio to the point of where the numbers say that I no longer have to invest into the market
Got it.
because, I have
Got it.
enough. But at the
Yes.
same time, you know what? I have the habit where every month I still buy stock because I'm just so used
Excellent.
to it,
Excellent.
and that's just
Excellent.
extremely important. So we have you came here, Wanji, as a junior in
Yes.
undergrad. You
Yes.
started to learn certain concepts around investing. You
Yeah.
came to realization that it wasn't an option; it was a necessity to start
Absolutely.
investing. And so along that journey, you decided that, you know what? There are stories to be told. And then
Yeah.
you started so when did the Your Forever Money podcast come about or the newsletter? When did you decide to start saying, okay, I want to start getting the word out, or I want to start to assist individuals at my church to understand money and things like that? How did you go from being the student to the teacher?
I don't know if it's student to teacher, but let's just say I'm still a student, you know.
Still learning,
So
huh?
so so, so I just always had this passion and like you, I'm sure you felt this. Once you get the vision and you start applying it, you get to the point you're like, everybody should be doing this. Why
Yeah.
isn't everybody doing this? Right?
Yeah.
So then I started working with my church. That probably was maybe 8, 10 years ago. I started
Okay.
with that. And then I kept talking to friends over and over and over again. And my wife was encouraging me to do something. She's like, you got to do something because I'm just talking to people. So last year, I started the newsletter. I started a newsletter going and I started getting it out. And then I started setting up the podcast. And then this year, I think it was in January, February timeframe, I was like, okay, that's it. We're launching. And then off went the podcast as well.
Okay, and that is great. And now, one of the interesting things about your podcast is that you share stories of people who have overcome setbacks. And so I have to ask you, Wanji, do you have a specific setback you've experienced that you'd like to share with us?
Yes.
Okay.
So as a family, we had a very interesting setback about 5 years ago.
Okay.
So our daughter got seriously ill.
Mm,
She developed this mold allergy. We had mold in the crawl space of our house. We were not aware of this.
mm,
And she developed this really serious allergy, got critically ill.
mm.
So we ended up having to more or less sell the house to a cash buyer, then move to
Wow.
another house.
Okay.
And then we had to get her on all this medical treatments. In fact, we were driving from where we are in the Nashville area up to Arkansas. It's like a 10-hour drive to go see a specialist. So
Mm.
in that whole process, we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars when the dust all settled.
Wow.
And as you know, in the work I do, I know people's finances. I see people's finances all the time. So all of a sudden, I find myself in a position where I'm much further behind from where I need to be. So
Mm.
that was a serious setback. And it's one we're just climbing out of, right? Because
Mhm.
again, I'm a person of faith and I just know we'll come out much stronger on the other side of it. And she's doing well now. That's the most
That's good to
important thing.
hear.
So we
Mhm.
are absolutely delighted.
Okay. As you mentioned, I'm happy to hear, Wanji, that she is doing good now. But I'm
Yes.
sure that as you were coming up with your roadmap, your plan for your personal finances, your journey, I'm pretty sure that nowhere in that plan you had that, okay, I'm going to have to sell my house to a cash buyer. And part of the things is that when you sell your house, you really have to disclose if you know something's wrong with
Oh,
it.
yes, yes,
And
yes,
so at that
yes.
particular point, you have to disclose
We
that you
did all
have,
that.
mold issues, and
Yeah.
that's going to impact the amount of money that you can get for it, versus if it didn't have that situation. And then taking those proceeds, and honestly, I'm sure, having to not only having to secure a new place to stay, but also to use it toward, the care for your daughter.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so one of the things that we should all be mindful of is that, we plan, but in between our plans, life happens,
Oh
right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
And
And
so,
that's life, right?
yes, that's life. But what we have to do is to remain faithful in what we're doing and say that, hey,
Exactly.
you know what, this too will pass, and
Exactly, exactly. And that's been the case. And I can tell you, Nick, I am far wiser
Mhm.
because of this. And also, the other thing it's caused me to do, I can now relate better to many more people, right? Because before my story was I got out of school, I kept on getting these corporate jobs, I kept on getting promoted, you're making good money. That's not a story many people can follow.
Yeah.
But this one,
Hmm.
setback, having to do a complete reset, oh, a lot of people can identify with that.
Hmm.
And you can really walk alongside people, and you now have experienced what many people experience.
Yeah, that's true. I know as I think about, the setback in my life is when we opened up a business and we lost a significant amount of money when we did it.
Yes,
But I know
yes,
one of the things that I always thought about that, if I got it once, I could get it twice. And
great,
so I
great
just
mindset.
was really, we just dug in and we did that. But at the same time, as you say this, I'm able to share my story with individuals that are saying, hey, you know what? It was not a straight line from,
Yes.
from high school graduation to financial independence. It was like the stock market, it's
Ups
not
and
and
downs.
downs. There you go. Yeah, absolutely, Wanji. So that's extremely important. So that is a important thing we have to keep in mind. So as you're starting to continue to navigate that setback, but you're also a teacher when it comes to many things like additional
Yeah.
streams of income, but also you have taught financial literacy across multiple continents, which is extremely
Yes.
interesting. So one of the questions I would have for you is what are some of the major cultural differences you've observed in how people view wealth and retirement outside of the US versus here? And what can the Everyday Money Heroes community learn from it?
So this is a very interesting question, Nick, because it's one I think of a lot, because I travel, right, in different places and talk to people all the time. I would say one of the big differences I see outside the US is people just use much less debt, just
Mm,
much less debt. Number
okay.
one, they just don't have access to it, right?
Okay.
There are many places you just can't get an unsecured credit card where you run up $5,000, $10,000. Nobody's gonna give it to you. No bank is gonna give it to you. So they
Mhm.
just use much less debt. I think the second thing I also see is because people have to deal with more cash. They
Mhm.
have a clearer, or at an earlier age, they have a very clear understanding of assets that generate income. They're just they just come to that realization much quicker. Because
Mhm.
remember, if you don't have a credit card, you're gonna have to figure out a way to get money. So people,
Right.
get that much earlier. The third thing is in some countries, especially when we're dealing with developing countries, they don't have a very good social safety net.
Mm.
So if something happens to you, you could become poor and destitute like really quickly.
Mhm.
So because of that, people are much more aggressive in getting assets quickly. I mean,
Oh,
it's not
okay.
a good thing that a social safety net doesn't exist or a good one doesn't exist. But
Mhm.
living in the reality of that, people then quickly, develop their own safety net because they have to. There's no other choice.
Okay. So one of the a couple things that jump out to me that you shared, Wanji. One is that there is the lack of leveraging debt
Yes.
in other countries. So it's okay. So they kind of I remember when I was a kid, we used to have this thing called layaway.
Yes,
And
yes, I remember that very well. You
yeah.
both of us are aging ourselves here.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I guess maybe people now would think about it like, what was like Klarna right now? Like people like go and make, I guess it's similar to that now, but we would do that. And so basically that was a form of leveraging debt a little bit, but it was that, okay, you had something, but the thing is that you didn't take possession of it,
Bingo,
you
bingo.
know? And
Until
so
you fully paid.
until you fully paid for it. Yeah. So a lot of times there's a little small fee that you had to pay for. It might be like, okay, a $2 or $3
Yes,
layaway
yes,
fee, and then
yeah,
everything else you should stay there. And if you if you were fortunate enough, you made the payments and you actually got it out. And if you're really fortunate, by the time you got the clothes out of layaway, you could still wear it. Because a lot of times if you did it for your kids, you get up like, Mama, I outgrew these pants. Yeah,
Yeah, no, with kids, that's a very growing
yeah,
kids, that's a tough thing, you
yeah,
know.
you have to put in there, a couple sizes higher, that way you don't
Yes.
grow it. And so, and another thing, you share those things as far as like debt and understanding the importance of generating just assets to,
Yeah.
to get income coming in. I think just one of the things when I think about it, I have not spent as much time in other continents as you, but I know that there's appears to be this stigmatism or this stigma, not
Yeah.
stigmatism, but stigma, um, with multi-generational homes in the US versus in other places outside
Oh,
the US.
yes.
I feel like it is almost a mandate that when, young kids, get of age, you got to get out the house.
Yes.
Or and then also, even if that's not the case, there's almost this shame when a young adult says I'm still in the same house with my parents.
Yes.
And I feel like that should not be the case. It should be that, okay, I'm staying here because I have a plan. I'm staying here because I'm saving up my money for my first home, or I'm saving up my money to open up a business,
Yes.
or I'm saving up the money to, I'm going to university, I'm going to college, and I don't want to have to pay for room and board,
Yes.
or I want to save my money for tuition. So I think oftentimes individuals have an issue with that. Is that something that you see quite often outside of the U.S., Wanji, as far as individuals really embracing that?
A lot. In fact, I have a very good friend, right, that because I started my university overseas.
Mhm.
So he and his wife, when they got married, they basically had a flat in their in-laws' house. That's where they lived for many, many, many years
Mm.
until they could save enough money to start building their own house next door,
Mm.
which they largely built with cash. They got a very small mortgage. They couldn't take a large mortgage because, again, the interest rates were like 16%. So
Oh,
you
wow.
cannot take a big mortgage
Yeah.
with interest rates like that.
Yeah, that's a
So
lot.
that house was largely built with cash, and they lived with their parents the entire time.
Mm.
That's really the only way to do it.
Yeah, that's true. And so one of the things that we definitely want to keep in mind here is that, if we have a plan, we should execute the plan, but
Yes.
also we should really tune out anything else that's speaking contrary to our plan. Because if we understand that
Yes.
we have a plan, what we want to do, it doesn't matter if you go and you see, your friends that you went to high school with or college with, and they still, you still living with your parents. Yeah, I have a plan. I'm staying here saving up
Exactly.
money. And I think that there might be a small transition going on right now because it is becoming so difficult for young adults to be able to, get the car, get the house.
Yes. Yes.
It's a lot. And so I
It's
think
it's a
that's
lot.
one of the
It's
things.
impossible, I think, for many young people today, especially at the interest rates the way they are today, and
Mhm.
the price of housing. So you have both working against young people trying to buy their first house.
Yeah, and I know it's even a push here in Florida where they're allowing individuals to build additional dwelling units, ADUs.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so that's an option. I was actually today with someone who said, they were trying to have a conversation with their in-laws because they had,
Yes.
a lot of extra land,
Hmm.
saying, hey, you know what, maybe we could just build an extra house, there, on your property
Exactly.
to, it'd be a win-win situation. So definitely want to
Yep.
go ahead and stick to the plan. So
Yeah, we've told our kids they could stay here. They'll have to pay us rent, but they can stay here.
yeah, yeah, it's no free lunch. Come on. All right. So
It won't be market rates, I can tell you
yeah,
that.
but it includes, mom's cooking and stuff like that, right?
There you
So
go.
I know one of the things that, I changed my tune when it came to my boys about that.
Yes.
I was kind of like, I admit I was kind of, when it came to my door, I was like, baby, you can say as long as you want to, but I was a little hard on my boys. But now I've kind of relaxed that a little bit. I say, hey, as
Yes.
long as you have a plan,
Bingo.
you can be
Bingo.
here. I was like, you can't be here just, playing, Xbox,
All day
chilling on
long.
the couch. No, you got to have a plan. So that's important.
That's
Um,
good.
so we, as we talked about streams a couple of times, but
Yes.
you focus on that on your show. You focus heavily on building robust, sustainable income streams. So
Yes.
in your view,
Yes.
what difference a standard kind of side hustle from a true forever money income stream?
Sure. So I'd say a side hustle would be like something someone does, like they drive Uber, right? So
Hmm.
it's like, hey, I want to go on vacation, so I'm going to drive Uber at night for, several nights, and then I get enough money, and then I go on vacation.
Hmm.
That would be what I call like a side hustle. But true forever income in my mind is something that is passive,
Okay.
right? So you don't have to really work it.
Hmm.
And ideally, it keeps growing. So as I mentioned to you, like dividend growth stocks, I really like because every
Hmm.
year that dividend comes in and it grows. So it's higher and higher and higher. And if you should choose to reinvest, right? If we're talking of a particular stock, you only put in whatever you put in. It could be $1,000, it could be less into that stock.
Hmm.
But every year you're buying more and more and more and more shares of that stock. We come back 10 years later, everybody wondered, but the amount of shares you've accumulated or the amount of dividend you now have. So to
Hmm.
me, that's a really nice way of doing it. And stocks are not the only way to go. You've got other passive income streams. So for example, if you do private debt, right?
Hmm.
I have friends who loan money to people who flip houses because
Hmm.
they cannot get a loan from a regular bank.
Hmm.
Those friends, if you invest with them, they pay a very, very nice income stream. So that's truly passive to me. I don't have to think about it. Every month, they send a statement and say, hey, your income for this month is XYZ.
Oh, okay. And so I guess one of the differentiators there is that, okay, usually with a side hustle, you are still leveraging your time.
Yes,
Okay.
you are.
All right. And so the thing is that, and the one thing about it is no matter how efficient you are, there's still that ceiling.
There's a ceiling on your time, yes.
There's, no matter how hard you work, you can't get more than 24 hours in a day. You
Yes. And,
know,
and also, I think the other challenge you run into is if you have a family and the kids start growing up, you
Mhm.
then run into this conflict of how much time am I going to spend outside the house versus the time I spend in the house. You just
Mhm.
run into this big, huge conflict. So to
Mhm.
me, we've got to kind of work to avoid that. If you have children you're taking care of, or even parents you're taking care of, the
Mhm.
time constraints just get tighter and tighter and tighter.
Mhm. Yeah, that's absolutely, and something has to give. And so the thing is that when you have those income streams, like you made reference to, that is something that's going to happen in the background.
Yes,
It's almost like, you can set it and forget it,
there
in
you
most
go.
cases. So that is great. So we talk about income streams. And so when you have multiple income streams, or even just starting off with an additional income stream, it can
Yeah.
greatly impact your life.
Yes.
So I guess my question is, can you share a story that you think of that someone you had a conversation with, or it could be someone that was on your show or someone at your church that you had a conversation with them and all of a sudden you saw like the light bulb go off and then all of a sudden you started to see them apply what they've learned and all of a sudden they're starting to see the wins in their life.
Yeah, so this is my good friend John Angus. So I actually
Mhm.
had him on my show. I think he was maybe guest number three or something like that.
Okay.
And in 2022, I guess the market had a dip and he lost 24% of what was sitting in his retirement
Oh,
account.
wow.
Scared
Okay.
the living daylights out of him,
Oh, yeah.
right? Because he was thinking, hey, I'm getting somewhat close to retirement. And then all of a sudden you wake up one morning, one quarter of what you have is gone.
Yeah.
So yeah, he and I started talking about passive income streams, and John now has, I think it's 28 different passive income streams.
Wow,
Yes,
28.
in his
So are we
in
talking
his
about 28? Are we talking about 28
retirement.
different dividend stocks? Or are we talking about
No,
28?
no, no.
Oh, wow.
Different things that he's
Okay.
got going.
Okay.
Just to make sure he
Hmm.
doesn't go through that type of experience again. And he's
Hmm.
got this diversified income scheme where month in, month out, or quarter in, quarter out, it's
Hmm.
throwing money at him. So he's a much better person for it and definitely much better prepared now for retiring.
Hmm. Wow, that's impressive. To go from 0 to 28 is
Yeah.
definitely impressive. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I guess, okay, so I guess I kind of have to ask this, and we don't have to get into specifics, but as far
Yes.
as in those 28, and we don't have to have like names like that, like what
Sure.
different types of kind of investments would someone have? And when you hear them say 28, would it be like, I don't know, I guess I'm drawing a blank. So,
Sure.
okay.
So he would have different dividend growth stocks. That would be one.
Hmm.
The other thing is that different investments in private credit. Like there are
Hmm.
quite a few of these people who provide money to people who flip houses, like I mentioned to you. And one of the things John and I do, because we talk all the time.
Okay.
In fact, I never make an investment without bouncing that off him and another friend because I
Okay.
want to have the wisdom of other people looking at things I want to invest in. And he
Mhm.
does the same. Is there quite a few of these, and we never make big bets. So it's
Mhm.
always as the smallest amount we can put, you put, and then you find another one just to make sure if anything happens, you don't lose a big ton of money.
Mhm.
The third thing he does is he puts money in short-term notes. So there are a couple companies that sell short-term notes, 6 months, 9 months on
Mhm.
the outside, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and they pay anywhere from 6 to 7%. So he has
Okay.
a lot of these different type of notes, and he's just investing in them, and they're just throwing cash at him, and then he reinvests, throws cash at him, and then he invests. So he just again he puts his money into small buckets,
Mhm.
but again into the same type of things over and over again.
Okay, that's very interesting. And so is it safe to say that once you start to get those additional streams of income, probably outside of, I would say, maybe the dividend growth stocks, that
Yeah.
those would be something that, okay, I have my debts paid
Yeah.
down, I have my emergency funds, I have
Yes.
my kind of core investments around my retirement, and then
Yes.
those would might maybe be like level two or next tier kind of investments.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, because I think you need to have money in the general stock market or through your workplace, your
Mhm.
401k or 403b. What I think you really want to take care of that. You want to make sure you get the match. And then you start thinking of these things, which are, just a steady income stream. Because if you think about it, people go to work to get a steady income.
Right.
Right? And the only way you're going to stop working is you're going to have to replace that steady
Steady
income.
income. Yeah, that's
Because as
true.
long as you're alive, you're going to need a steady income. Even if you've paid off your mortgage, there's still lots of other expenses you need to take care of month to month. You've got
Oh
to
yeah.
eat, you've got to get clothes, you've got to have transportation. The
Hmm.
list goes on and on.
Yeah, that's true. All right, that's great. Well, let's talk about mindset just for a minute, Wanji.
Yes.
People often seek help when they're in financial distress. And
Yes.
so, how do you shift someone's mindset from merely surviving and getting out of debt to thriving and pursuing financial freedom?
So this is a very interesting question because if you sit back and look at it, um, people run into financial distress is what I'll call it, right? For a couple of reasons. One could be, which is stereotypical, they have bad money habits. But frankly, there are lots of people who run into financial trouble not because they've got bad money habits, but other
Mhm.
things happen. So, for example, you lose your job. This happens, and it's
Right.
something completely out of your control.
Mhm.
Generally, most of the time, it's out of your control. Or you've got some large medical expenditure, like we do now, all of a sudden, you're in trouble.
Mhm.
So to me, it's getting people's mindsets towards, hey, look, the way you create financial peace for yourself is becoming financially independent. You do not want to leave
Mhm.
your financial life in the hands of some person or some institution where
Right.
it's completely out of your control. It's not wisdom. You need to get that in your control. So
Mhm.
it's trying to get people's mindsets towards that. Because when you talk about job loss, people, the light bulb goes off. People clearly understand that. So it's trying to teach them you need to get things under your control. Don't leave it outside your control.
Yes, that's true. And one of the things when you talk about, not having control is that we can try to be the best worker that we can be. But ultimately,
Yes.
sometimes when someone gets laid off, it's not about them being a bad worker.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a decision that's made by someone you've never met before. you
Eh,
know, and I remember when I used to be a people leader, there would be times they would come to me and they would say, "Hey, everybody got to give one."
Yeah. There you go. There you go.
I was like, "What do you mean?" They did like, "Hey, everybody got to give one," and which literally means that I have to make this very tough decision about, who do I have to lose from my team,
Yes.
and it's not because they're a bad worker.
Exactly.
Because I was fortunate enough that most of the teams that I led, they were all solid contributors. But
Great.
sometimes you kind of get that mandate, and it's like,
Yes.
okay, you have to do it. And so
Yes.
if that situation happens to you, what would you do? And that's ultimately what I tell many people that, okay, what would you do if your check was not there?
There we go.
Yeah.
There we
And
go.
that we should have that sense of emergency that, we should live within our means. We should start trying to
Exactly.
build that emergency fund because we never know that,
Yeah.
the one thing, Wanji, that puts the fear in grown men and women
Yes.
is when you get a all company, all department staff meeting that just pops up on your calendar. And you're like,
I
oh,
get it. I get it.
what are they
I
trying to
get it.
tell us?
Yes.
You have that
Yes.
fear that, they might be getting ready to announce
Yeah.
that there is some type of layoffs coming or a
Yeah.
reduction in force. So how can you
Yeah.
go ahead and deal with that situation so that, okay, if it does happen, um, how can I still, provide for my family
Mm-hmm.
and, make sure that we still have, a roof over our head, and things that we need to be able
Yes.
to weather the storm until we're able to get I'm able to get another job?
Eh,
Or is it to a point where you get to where if that thing does happen and you have structured your life where you say, you know what, maybe I don't have to go back.
There we go. There we go. And Nick, I think this is something um, all of us should be teaching our kids. I mean, for me, in terms of multi-generational instruction and knowledge, I think this is so important.
Mm.
All of us should be teaching our kids, all of our audiences should be teaching our kids because this is reality. This
Yeah.
is real life. It's not a matter of being an alarmist or being down or talking about bad news. This is just reality, and we need to plan for it. So
Mm.
when it happens, you can come out better the other side. Otherwise, it's just lots of pain and distress.
Yes, it is. And it is important for us to teach, our sons and daughters these things. And at the same time, we need to understand that, you know, there are certain things that will happen
Yeah,
and we need to just plan for it. I know there are very few people now. I spent almost 21 years at my employer.
yes.
That doesn't happen a whole lot right now. Either people they move from company to company because they have an opportunity, or some individuals are faced with a layoff, then they have to go to another company to get another occupation or
Hmm.
get a new role. And
Yeah,
so we need to live within kind of this range where we're like,
yes,
okay, well, how can I still live for today, but
yes.
then have enough money to be able to save and invest for tomorrow? Um,
Got it.
I I recently had someone on the show, uh, Kim Hunter Borst, and
Hmm.
she shared her story where she was making six figures and her husband was making six figures too,
Wow.
and how she came to the realization that she was a people leader and they were laying people off. And she said, what happens when my number gets called? And that scared her to the point she was like, you know what? We've got to start doing something different because she said we make too much money to live in
Got
financial fear.
it. There you
And
go. There you go.
within 10 years, she
Yep.
went from being afraid to being $69,000 in debt to being financially independent in just 10
Excellent.
years.
That's
And
a great
so
story.
yes, it is. I will link to that down in the description. It's a really great,
Great,
great
great,
story.
great.
But as we get ready to wrap up here, Wanji, I want to thank you for your time. Also, are there any kind of final thoughts that you would like to share, first of all, with the audience, and also for those who want to continue to consume what you're doing over at the Your Forever Money podcast, so they can keep up with you there?
Yes, so yes, Your Forever Money podcast, you can find me there. Yourforevermoney.com is my website. You can find me there. And finally, to your audience, I want to say have hope, right? This is it's a long journey,
Mhm.
but the minute you start, you can see a difference in your life. Have hope. We can never see, 5 years in front of us, but if you start, you can eventually get to your goals. You just need to turn and start in the right direction. Have hope, be optimistic. You'll be able to make it.
Absolutely. That's sage advice. Thank you so much, Wanji. As we get ready to sign off here, I'm going to encourage everyone to go and connect with Wanji. I'm going to put the information to his podcast and his platform down in the description. Also, I will ask one more time, if you have not, that you would subscribe to Everyday Money Heroes on YouTube and follow us on your podcast player choice. And as we get ready to close out here, I'm going to just remind you that I'm your host, Nick Johnson, and I'm going to encourage you to trust the process. Have a great day.
Thank you.